Okay, welcome to the My Black Diabetes Meal Plan podcast. This is Dr. Sean Smith. I am here once again with Dr. Joel Furman. And folks, we know that this is the holiday season, and it's that time when we're thinking about the people that we want to become. It's also that time when we can easily get distracted by excuses, by other people, by any external obstacle. And we want to make sure that when it comes to our food, when it comes to our health, when it comes to living the life that we know we deserve, that we don't allow distractions to creep in. And so Dr. Joe Furman is here to help us talk through two of the primary distractions that I always see, which is food addiction and emotional overeating. Dr. Furman, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Great to be here.
And,
Excited about the work you're doing.
and I couldn't be more grateful to be speaking with you at this time of year, because what we're really about is change and motivation. Next year, 2021 is around the corner. I think it's about 2 weeks away. 2 weeks away. And again, food addiction, emotional overeating, these always seem to be the hidden obstacles that most folks never think about when it comes to making the right decision for actually extending our lives, for making sure we're around to see our children and our grandchildren. What is food addiction? I want to start with that first question. What is food addiction, and how do we know when we have it?
Well, I think that most Americans, I would say probably more than 80% of Americans are food addicts to a certain degree. Otherwise, they wouldn't all be overweight. I mean, people know that fat on the body is lifespan destructive. It increases the risk of cardiovascular death and cancer death. Yet they keep eating excess calories in spite of the fact that they know that eating those foods is destroying their health. You would think a person who is normal, with a normal thought process, thinking logically and sanely, would say, well, I shouldn't eat that if it's going to hurt me. I shouldn't snort cocaine. It's not good for my health. I shouldn't smoke cigarettes. It causes lung cancer. I shouldn't be eating the pizza, the croissants, the bagels, the ice cream, because it's shortening my lifespan, taking years off my life, increasing risk of diabetes. I might have a leg amputation or go blind over it, but they do it anyway. And they come up with rationalizations and delusional self-thoughts because the primitive brain defends its own actions like a little baby, like a crying baby. Wah, 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 I want my, the primitive brain wants its stimulants. And concentrated calories that enter the bloodstream as a flood stimulates dopamine receptors in the brain. And you actually develop neurological pathways that make you a calorie consuming monster. And now that calorie consuming monster working out of your primitive brain is like an alien living within you who takes over your conscious thoughts. And the more a person becomes an addict, a food addict particularly, the less they care about humanity, about the world around them, about being a good parent, a good neighbor, a good person. They're no longer the best version of themselves. For example, if people get into drug addiction or alcoholism, they can steal or cheat or do anything to support their addictive habits. And most people, and a lot of people in America, become so dysthymic. That means they're so uncaring, even about themselves, no self-compassion and outward compassion, that their primary driver becomes fueling their addiction. So it's working to make money so they can buy more food, or they can drink, or they can go out and have more fancy food and overeat. It's like living for your addiction. And it leads to the number one cause of death of heart attack and strokes, and of course, cancer wiping people out, and diabetes being so. Who would eat themselves into diabetes if they weren't an addict? And the food is designed to be addictive, to be calorically concentrated, to hook people. And people are hooked. So I'm saying, how could you be overweight and not be a food addict? Why would you eat yourself into bad health unless you're a food addict? And the foods are addicting. And almost everybody in America is overweight. And when you're overweight, your insulin metabolism has been distorted and made into a dangerous condition, whether you have diabetes or not. If you're overweight and you don't have diabetes, you still have a distorted insulin metabolism, because being overweight causes so much insulin resistance that the beta cells in the pancreas are now forced to produce 5 times as much insulin as a person of normal weight. even before you're diabetic. And excess insulin drives angiogenesis, fat storage, and cancer replication. So the excess insulin in a type 1 diabetic, let's say, they're eating American food and they're taking 5 times as much diet, 2 times, 3 times as much insulin as they need, and they die young. And then you have a type 2 diabetic who's not just harmed by their high glucose, they're also harmed by the treatments for the high glucose, which is either more insulin or medications which cause the beta cells to produce more insulin, which accelerates their death. Treatment for diabetics accelerates their death. The only way you could be safe if you're a diabetic is get rid of the diabetes and become undiabetic, and that has to start with losing all your excess weight, and at least 2 pounds a week. If you're not losing it 2 pounds a week, I always say you're not a nutritarian. You're either nutritarian, either you're at your ideal weight, your body fat's below 15%, but certainly below 15% for a male and below 25% for a female, but maybe better below 22.5% for a female, and maybe, but in any case, your body weight's favorable, or you're overweight and you're losing weight towards that spot at least 2 pounds a week. If you're not losing at least 2 pounds a week, then you have all these biochemical insulin being high, insulin resistance being high, excess of production of aromatase, producing excess estrogens, extra angiogenesis promotions. You have all the extra inflammatory modulators like cytokines and lipokines spewing out from your fat cells, driving inflammatory diseases. So your health is just deteriorating, leaving yourself exposed to COVID. It's almost so death by a simple virus. It's almost like eating that pizza and eating that holiday food is the same thing, is almost spitting a gun right to your head, because you can be killed from COVID next month if you eat that stuff. COVID, if anything, just illustrates the labels the people who are eating poorly, because those are the people that are being hurt, and people that are eating a healthy diet aren't vulnerable at all to that type of a virus, because your immune system's going to be strong. So what I'm saying is, food addiction is a source of distorted thinking and bad habits induced by the bad food. And the only way you can recover from it is abstinence and healthy eating, in spite of the difficulty in doing so. Just like it's hard for people to abstain from alcohol or cocaine or cigarettes, they've got to abstain from these poisonous substances. And eventually the desire for them fades. This illicit love affair you set up with these foods starts to be realized. You start to see it clearly for what it is: self-destructive behavior, and your ability to develop pleasure from the foods that are healthy and from the rest of your life, and your interactions with people and the world around you, and your own creativity is able to blossom when you get rid of addictive behaviors, and you become a better person, the best version of yourself. I say to people all the time, I say to them, you're going to be so happy when you achieve that version of yourself you always dreamed of achieving, that best version of yourself, looking better, feeling better, thinking better, being a kinder, more comprehensive and creative individual, because this is what being in prison, this is what addiction takes from you. It takes from you your humanity. It takes from you being the person you were meant to be.
And Doc, that's one of the things that I really wanted to focus on. I don't know if I've ever told you this, but personally, using the information, particularly in Eat to Live, I went from a 20% body fat to around 8%. First time in my life that I'm ever seeing, the abdomen. I mean, it was the coolest thing. Came out of high blood pressure, came out of the pre-diabetic state that I was in. But the biggest unseen benefit was in the dramatic change to my mind that came from eating health foods, not hell foods. Can you shine some light on the neurochemistry that shifts when we choose whole foods that love us and not junk foods?
Yeah, it's so good we're talking about this, because people aren't talking about this. They understand this concept of how eating can affect your weight, diabetes, heart disease, even cancer. But the fact that eating causes depression, dementia, loss of brain cells, loss of intelligence, loss of creativity, and even irrational behavior, they don't see that. You actually, so we're talking here a lot. There's so much biochemistry here we could talk about. We can address some of it.
Sure.
But one of the simple things to understand is that the high circulating glucose in diabetes makes you lose brain cells at a faster rate. And the spike in glucose after a high glycemic meal, that spike in sugar rushing in the bloodstream, is not healthy for brain cells and makes you lose brain cells. As a matter of fact, so much so that even 2 servings a week of commercial baked goods or fast foods, just 2 servings a week, doubles your lifetime risk of developing depression. And it goes up from there in a dose dependent manner. And there are people's 10, 15 servings a week of
Oh.
commercial baked goods, pizza, bagels, croissants, white bread, whatever it is people shove, pretzels, whatever it is they eat, hot dogs, hamburger bun, a slice of meat between 2 pieces of cake. Because white flour is cake. There's no difference between eating cake with sugar and cake without sugar. Eating a muffin is a piece of cake, whether you put the icing on it or not. Whether you're eating a pizza is a piece of cake, whether you put a piece of cheese on it or not. When you're eating it's all cake and it destroys your brain. So we're talking about you lose the spikes in glucose, especially with the lack of antioxidants is destructive to brain cells. Our brain has a continuous need to be exposed to antioxidants because it doesn't have its own antioxidant machinery as well as your peripheral cells do, your musculoskeletal system does. The brain, so we're eating green vegetables and blueberries and onions, and we're eating all types of these brain foods because the brain requires these nutrients, phytonutrients, for its long-term protection. So what I'm saying right now is that even when people are not depressed from eating processed foods and commercial baked goods, it affects their moods every day. It makes them more dysthymic. And so the people that are not becoming depressed aren't that excited about life. They're not that passionate about their own creativity and what they can accomplish each day. They're not thrilled with waking up and doing what they can achieve. They start to live just to just to go to work, trudge and do their like it's work. It's not passion anymore. They lose and they think that they can't. Their life is stressful because they've lost the creative ability to solve the stresses in their lives. When you have the chronic exposure to the excess calories, especially the glycemic calories, and the combination between the lack of plant antioxidants, it affects your thinking and your creativity. So you're not become less intelligent. You don't do as well in school and learning. You're not as productive on the job. You're not as focused, and you're not as creative in your solutions. So you're not the person you really could have become. I always say, as you eat junk food and fast food, you get dumber and dumber and dumber, and then you get elected president.
I saw you say that in a speech, and oh my gosh, you had me laughing so hard. There were some folks in the comments that felt otherwise, but gosh, I couldn't believe you said that.
I can't help myself sometimes, but whatever. But I think our political system speaks to people's lack of ability to think logically and to be able to weigh evidence. I do believe that the way they eat influences their bad choices and also the lack of compassion for others. And I think that when you become a heroin addict or a cocaine addict, you can rob other people. And the more you become addicted to power, you become addicted to being superior to other people and feeling that you are superior in this false sense of thinking in your mind, which is no longer thinking rationally anymore. Instead of feeling like that other people are us, and our happiness is based on our ability to emote and care for and love others. What I'm saying is our own ability to be happy and be satisfied and be content with our own life has our own ability to not just be creative, but to be feeling and caring for others and to really love other people in their presence so we become more connected to other people in a way that makes ourselves happy. And the more you become an addict, whether it's food or cocaine, and when you get addicted to the feeling of being better than people, separate from them, and differences among people, dividing and being, and this is the feeling of trying to beat out other people, and then it makes you more unhappy yourself and more seeking of a junk food for the brain. And junk food for the brain, when you can't emote and care and feel good about how you deal with other people, then you look for junk food, which becomes achieving power and trying to get power over other people and trying to feel you're superior to others and diminishing their value and their importance. I think it all feeds together here. And I don't think that it's, what's the word? It's not political to suggest that we have a period in American history today that's really something we should be embarrassed about, and is particularly on the side of evil. And the fact that so many Americans support this evil is really says something about the state of America. And the fact that so many people are dying of COVID at the same time says something about the state that which we've been eating to enable so much death and so much behavior that's so lack with so much, how could you say, distorted thinking, conspiracy theories, inability to believe nonsense, as well as people eating themselves unhealthily and dying of diseases from eating poorly. It all meshes together and is somewhat explainable. And to avoid that political link here would be not, what's the word, fulfilling what's really happening around us.
Right. Well, I hear you saying what a lot of folks in our group will understand as followers of the Bible. Love God, love thy neighbor. If we can do that, then we're in good shape. What I'm hearing you say is that we can get into a political or social climate where it's difficult to do that. And if we're not allowing ourselves, if we're not preparing ourselves every day, including with the food that we're eating, to do just that, to make sure that we're connecting with other folks. If we're in food addiction, we can't connect with other folks in a meaningful way. And
Right, but how can you
so,
be how can you be a role model, a teacher, or how could you be influence other people for their good? Because we really want to go out there and have goodwill for other people. And how do people respect you? How could you have goodwill if you're not in good health and not an example of good health? And how is it goodwill for other people if you've destroyed your own health and you're making them care for you? Even your children. You want your children to live life trying to take care of you because of your bad health habits? They should be home caring for your sicknesses, or you should be caring for yourself and making sure you're well to be able to support your family in a proper sense. So I'm saying to you that, right, that even in the form of ethics here and goodwill, that taking care of, having compassion for others involves taking care of your own health and being and I love the fact that so many thousands of people like yourself have gained superpowers.
mm,
You're super powerful because you've gotten yourself as a role model and can reach out and with a ray of light, move other people to make better choices in their life. And
mm,
that's what life is all about. And you can only do that if you've achieved good health yourself. And I say this via, we feel, you and I feel that we're so grateful for the careers we have and to the self-satisfaction we get from aiding other people to get well again. And so many of the thousands of people that have transformed their health, they feel the same thing. They don't have to have a medical degree. I have at my retreat here in San Diego, I have people Zoom in every week who are just people who've recovered their health and just talk about how they've done it and how they're eating and how they got rid of their food addictions. People who've read, I have so many success stories. People have dropped 100 pounds or more and kept the weight off, and I have them come in and they can relate to just people telling you their own personal stories of how they dealt with eating this way, how they abstained, what they did, how it affected their life, how it changed the way they think. And it's very motivating for people to see just regular people just like them
mm.
who've gone through it and succeeded. What I'm saying is that so many of the people, they've developed superpowers themselves to really help other people for the good because they've changed their own health. And anybody listening to this, to have a type of good power, we are having a good effect on other people and having the best life possible, you have to have good health. And that means you have to choose the right foods to put in your mouth.
Mm.
If you don't, you're not taking the right care of yourself, your friends, your neighbors, you're not taking care of civilization. You're not taking care of the planet.
Right.
Unless you've got to take care of ourselves and marry that with care for people and the planet simultaneously.
Right. And the last little piece that I wanted to just address is this issue of overeating. These are women, and in our group, we have folks who are super moms and super dads. But when it comes to this one issue, right, there can be folks just sometimes need a little bit of help. Sometimes the thing that is standing in the way is a an emotional problem, people relying on food as an emotional crutch. We had a woman come in and say, look, uh, she's been using food for years as an emotional crutch. She's fed up with doctors that keep pushing medication on her. She wants something different. And I can't even lie that sometimes I find myself falling into bad habits that seem justifiable when I say, oh, you've had a hard week. You deserve to treat yourself. Go ahead and get the cake, right? And if you've grown up with that reliance on food as an emotional crutch, ooh, it's important to be able to recognize that and then to do something about it. Is there a strategy for climbing out of relying on food for emotional support?
As you know, I've been doing this for 3 decades now. And as the decades have gone by, I've realized that the people that jump into this program with a foot in both worlds have a high chance of not succeeding if they dabble
Mm,
in unhealthy, addictive foods. And the more you go, or the more you're an emotional overeater, the more you need help in making sure you stay 100% compliant, at least for the first 3 to 6 months. So what I'm saying right now is that the most important, that it's not going to go away if you keep turning the flame back on. If you keep going back to having alcohol on the weekends or smoking cigarettes, you're still going to be attracted to that. But as you stay away from this for a long enough period, completely abstain from those addictive triggers, your body develops less dependency on them to use them as an emotional crutch. And so, the more that you have that tendency to use food as an emotional support, the more you need help in making sure you're not attracted or have the ability to have those foods. Clean out the house, dump everything and get everything in garbage bags. Make sure that we're completely not tempted, and enlist the help of other people, your family or your friends. And if you're a smoker, not to have ashtrays and cigarettes around. And if you're a food addict, not to have those foods around. And I have a retreat where people come for a few months, but you have to make your home into that retreat. You have to make your friends and your family into enforcing that type of behavior, and not people that are enablers that are going to make that worse.
right. And making sure, one of the things that you've talked about, and it was radical when you said it, was we don't really believe in diets. There's a reason we're not called My Black Diabetes Diet. It's called My Black Diabetes Meal Plan. The idea is to make sure that people understand the foods and the food combinations that they can prepare for themselves and their families that gets everyone on one accord. You've always said dieting, if you're yo-yoing, foot in one world and maybe sometimes you diet, sometimes you don't, that's a problem. Can you explain in the last 2 minutes here uh, the real issue with trying to diet, especially as we move into the new year when most folks are thinking, oh, I'm going to start that diet today.
Right, exactly. So just to say, as a prelude to that, we know that most people have heart attacks and die around New Year's and the
Oh,
week thereafter because of the fact that they eat so poorly over the holidays and gain weight, or they have heart attacks or go in the hospital after they come back from a cruise or a vacation where they've eaten at buffets and they've gone to Las Vegas, they come back and have a heart attack. People have so much danger is going away on vacation and eating poorly, because any rapid regain of weight has an effect not just to put fat on subcutaneously. You can't gain subcutaneous fat, the type of fat on your waist, that quickly. So when you're putting on fat rapidly, a lot of it goes viscerally or internally around your heart and around your internal
mm,
organs, and it's more saturated and becomes more dangerous. What I'm saying right now is that the rapid gain of weight is particularly dangerous. And that means if people lose weight and gain weight quickly, lose weight, put weight back on again, every time they put weight back on again, they've shifted fat more internally, more viscerally, more saturated, raising cholesterol more, increasing risk of cardiovascular death and cancer death. So what we're saying here is that um, we want to change our diet forever, because temporary weight loss does you no benefit, even makes things worse. So we want to get people to change their diet, to eat to prevent dementia, eat to prevent cancer, eat to prevent heart attacks and strokes. And that's a way of eating you're going to continue with the rest of your life. And you have to give yourself 6 months for the taste buds to change and to not
mm,
only learn the recipes, learn how to make it taste good. So the taste buds aren't stimulated with sugar and fried foods and heavy spices and sweets. The main thing is salt and sweets. And talking about staying off sugar, salt, and oil, SOS. And when you're off those things for 6 months, now you can taste the salty flavor of natural foods. Now you can taste the sweetness in a strawberry, or lettuce tastes sweet. You can taste the goodness in natural food when you've no longer been overstimulating your taste buds. And so we're asking you, don't evaluate how much you like eating this way. Learn it, do it, practice it, and you will eventually earn the ability to love eating this way as much as your other diet is concerned. But you're not going to come off alcohol successfully when you're an alcoholic if you keep going out drinking.
Right.
And so it really has to do with make these holidays coming up the most healthful time of your life in sharing love and fun and games and pleasure and trying to all support each other into achieving better health. And and I want people to make, and and as you know, showing people how to make the healthiest foods taste great is what I'm so proud of. And you eat meat. It's not eating without pleasure. It's eating with more pleasure because you get the pleasure from the food and the pleasure from knowing the food's good for you.
Right.
Why eat things that you know are going to be self-destructive? So it's just a different mindset, and realize that we're enjoying life more, not less.
That's right.
But it takes some time to get there. And I tell people, don't evaluate it so much at the beginning. Just do it. And let's change your 10. I guarantee you'll love eating this way, but you gotta test it. And you can't test it if you do it 99% or 90%. You can only test it and see the marked success at helping you feel better and think better and work better and move better and to sleep better and defecate better, and everything gets better. But you got to really do it to see these benefits. So just do it.
Dr. Furman, thank you so much for another great conversation. Folks, what Dr. Furman is saying is that there is a way for you to come out of food addiction, to come out of that emotional overeating. And one of the things we want to do is make sure that you have that help. Go to myblackdiabetesmealplan.com. There, not only will you be able to get onboarded with an actual meal plan, but you'll also be able to find links to Dr. Furman's work where you can find and provide and have even more support. Dr. Furman, thank you so much. Happy holidays to you. And I look forward to our call next month.
Same here. Great holidays to everybody. Best of health. Take care. Bye-bye. Bye.